I don't know that one.
Gene.
Gene.
Who's my brother?
Hey, this is the little kid from Natural Born Killers. You know, people will be like, what are you talking, you know? There's a movie out right now, by the way, also plugging Fried Red Face and Me. Billy Luther, currently touring it around the world at film festivals. Well, I'm native, and then I also act, you know, so it's like, you know, so it's like you're representing the experience and whatever character you're playing. Sites throughout the Navajo Nation, which are what you call AUMs, abandoned uranium mines. Mm-hmm. Some of those areas, mines were able to be traced back to companies, and those companies were able to provide reparations. Other ones were not, and the government provided it. Still, there's not enough money to clean all the sites currently.
Hey, Eben. So today we have a very special guest that I have not seen in over 10 years. And it was just a little twist of fate how our timing just lined up just right, because he's a very busy person who travels all over the place. Before I go talk anymore, let's get this started. So can you tell us, I'm not sure if anybody knows your name. No, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know a lot of people don't know me, but yeah, my name is Jeremiah Bitsui. I'm Dene Omaha, Todachitni Shishi, Bashashin, Kitsani de Chinle, Holgani de Che. So on my Nullies, on my Che's side, my late Che, he was Omaha from Nebraska. So we have lineage over there as well.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, another thing I learned about you.
Yeah.
So it's been, I think the last time we ran into each other 10 years ago on set somewhere.
Man, it's been a while, huh?
It's at least 10 years, maybe 7.
Maybe Breaking Bad?
No, it wasn't Breaking Bad. It was another TV show that was in town.
Okay.
You were dressed up as a soldier.
Oh, that was Night Shift.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Night Shift.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
so,
I remember that.
All right, so now we kind of gave you guys a quick intro to Jeremiah. Where is he from? And we ran into on set. So obviously you all know him from a very famous show called Breaking Bad, and also another one called Yellowstone, which I was very excited to see. And then I kind of geeked out about the gun you were using in there.
Yeah, we talked about that, right?
So, all right, so, okay, you have family from Nebraska. You're also from New Mexico or Arizona?
Arizona side, yeah.
Okay, Arizona side.
Yeah, it's always important. With Navajos and for non-Navajos or non-natives, you know, this is a question that comes up, and it's important for us to kind of know. We had introduced, or we talk to each other like this, where you from, you know, who's your family, and that's always important. So, yeah, the background on my side, I'm originally from my mom. You know, you go with your mom's side from Chinle, and I was born in Tuba City, even though we weren't living in Tuba City at the time. We were living in Flagstaff, and I come from a rodeo family. So my dad, bareback rider. He was a great cowboy, all-star cowboy, done a few different events, and learned a lot from him, which we can talk about. And then also my mother was a trick rider and barrel racer. And so I think there's a competitive element to all that, you know. Being Navajo, or I guess American Indian or indigenous here in the U.S., that's an important part of our culture. It seems like we really, you know, horses and Western life, and that's really important. So that's how I grew up. I grew up close to that. The funny part is I always joke about it, but I'm allergic to hay, horses, cows. So anything like related to the rodeo, I became allergic to. Not on purpose, not because I've been to a million rodeos, but just kind of circumstantial how life is. Wow. So in the summers, I'd watch film and television, and that's what really got me into wanting to get into film. Ninja movies is how I became. That's what piqued my interest. Nice. and through that, my interest, and we can talk about interest and focus in a bit, but I think interest and focus has a way of gravitating where you are in life, whatever place you're in. For me, it was living in a trailer, watching a ton of ninja movies, and a Japanese film crew came to my town, and they were looking for horses. I dressed up like a ninja because I just kind of, 5 years old, I just assumed, and ended up getting a lead role in the film, which is actually meant for a female character, and they ended up making it a young 5-year-old native boy, which was cool. So that was my first bite, I was nowhere.
So what was the name of that film?
That was called Mickey's House.
Mickey's
yeah.
House. Okay.
So if you ever find it, let me know. We can't find the tape, but that was my first experience. I got bit by the bug. After that, we'd shoot SNL spoof videos on my parents' VHS. And then when I finally got here to Albuquerque when I was 10, I started taking acting classes and got more tied in. And then Natural Born Killers, that was my first real big break.
Nice.
So yeah.
What role were you in that one?
So I played, I think, young Indian or Indian boy.
Okay.
And there was really no place for me. As you know, Hollywood is very, it can be a tough place, as you know, but it's very antiquated in the sense that it's like still today, right? Now walls are starting to be broken down. Yep. My cousin he's in a show that just came out today, Killers of the Flower Moon. So real stories are starting to be told.
Oh, the Scorsese.
Yeah, the Scorsese film. And then, you also have films that, TV shows, res docs, things that didn't exist before.
Yep.
And that's where I found myself as an actor, was no one knew where to place me. I had braces at the time. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Albuquerque, so people were kind of like, well, we don't know, he doesn't have braids, we don't know where to put him. And so I was marginalized in that sense, and I drew more towards directing. Moved to LA when I was 19 years old, started my first company right before that, which allowed me to get there. Oh, wow. And and I was just consuming film. Like, I'd watch anything independent. I was reading Robert Rodriguez, Rebel Without a Crew. I was going to screenings, which was amazing. Like, the studio screenings. Yeah, studio screenings and independent film screenings. Yeah. I became a part of Film Independence, Project Involve, Sundance. Like, I had friends through that. So it was a really great space at the time to just curate that interest. Mm-hmm. I didn't get into UCLA Film School. And the Salt on the Wound was that day. They were showing a sneak peek, Insomnia, which
it's a Nolan film.
Yeah,
it's
you may know
Christopher Nolan film.
Just Christopher Nolan happened to be at UCLA campus, and that was inspiring, and that kind of changed my view, because he basically put it in perspective. Hey, if you're 20 years old, 21 years old, and you don't have a hit film that you're directing, don't worry, because it doesn't always come that quickly. I didn't go to film school, he said, and it was the day I found out that I found out on a tour of UCLA that I didn't get into film school. Mm-hmm. And the long story short of it is I realized, what, even if I take a step back, who knows, I might be taking a step forward. Yeah. Moved back here for a little bit, went back home to the res back in Arizona for a bit, herded sheep, came back, and my phone started ringing to take some acting jobs, which was, so it was kind of full circle.
Sometimes you just took that hand off the wheel, saying, I'm driving this too hard, let me see what happens.
Exactly.
And then you let the universe work its way out.
Yeah, you just work back towards whatever it is.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool. And so, what was your quote-unquote big first break? I mean, you started very young with Natural Born Killers.
Yeah.
And then after that, what was the next one?
Wow. Yeah, it's funny because as an actor, you're always kind of outliving your previous role. Yep. So, I would go out with friends, and up until when I was like 25 years old, my friends would be like, hey, this is the little kid from Natural Born Killers. People would be like, what are you talking, much different when you're being hyped up by your friends versus like people, come up organically. Hey, I enjoyed your show. But yeah, I didn't live that one down. until I started, till that year. The role that I booked was on Chris Ayres' 1,000 Roads, still showing at the Smithsonian. So a plug if you're in New York City or DC, it's still showing. You could watch it in their theater. So.
And that's
Just
the
plug
same
that.
gentleman who did, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Who did Dance Me Outside?
No, Chris Ayres did Smoke Signals.
Smoke Signals,
But
there you go.
more recently, and we can talk about that. But he, brought me on Dark Winds. But I consider that for a break. It was a small film, independent, limited release. But that was really, I realized I have a chance to learn. Chris isn't bringing me on to co-direct yet. Yeah. I was 25, but it was I had a chance to go and jump on and learn from him behind his lens, but as an actor. Yeah. So active part of it from in front of the lens. So I've made that my learning platform and have had a great opportunity working with Jim Sheridan, Clint Eastwood, Vince Gilligan, some really great, wonderful directors. As you mentioned, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Taylor Sheridan, some really great people to learn from, and I still put Chris up there.
Good.
One of our best very own actors, directors. We did Dark Winds, so
he's also a pioneer within the Native community as well.
Yeah, and he's such a big force on that side. So, that's a little bit about the full circle of it, but The acting thing is interesting because it's just now finally led for me to kind of get into directing, which is, I think, my next step. But more recently, I've been developing a feature, nothing I wrote, but just a story that I repurposed, which I feel really good about. We were supposed to shoot this fall. Scheduling-wise, didn't work out, so we're going to shoot it in the spring. So, I'm pretty excited about that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, if he can help me with our Terminator script.
Yeah, there you go.
But actually, my wife and I, we wrote a Terminator script, the sequel to the second movie. And then we watched Logan less than a year later, and we're like,
there it is.
That's our film. Everything from the forest to the age to how it all comes to an end, almost to that. That's all right, we need to rewrite this. That's cool. Okay, so that's great. So you said you're in Dark Winds?
Yeah, so I came, Chris called me again. We were finishing our final season of Better Call Saul. Mm-hmm. And there's a movie out right now, by the way, also plugging Fried Red Face in Me. Billy Luther, currently touring it around the world at film festivals. And so Dark Winds or Better Call Saul was happening. We were on our final season, which was bittersweet. The project ended up shooting for 12 months, but I had to hop off. I got an offer by Dark Winds through Chris. He said, hey, let's, all the guys, Zahn, Kaiwa, they'd all love for you to come on board and jump on as a regular. Guy deeply conflicted, dealing with trauma, what we're talking about, and it was serendipitous. It was a great project to hop on. I just lost my father that summer and or that spring, and there were some heavy things going on, and so right after I got off of Saul, I had a short gap. We shot Fried Red Face, and then ran right into prep for Dark Winds. So it was a busy year, and I think I was bearing a lot of things that were happening, but therapeutic in the way that a lot of that came out, through this deeply conflicted character, which ended up, you'll have to check it out. But
yeah. No, I mean, again, I'm sorry to hear about your father. I met him a few times.
Oh, thank you.
When you guys would stop by DMA's office.
Yeah, you're right.
Come to meetings and
you're right.
Talk shop and then exit and all that.
Yeah.
Very, very humble man.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we miss him and learned a lot from him, and so 2021 was a big year. Yeah.
So what I remember, aside from you and I, you being more on Breaking Bad and doing a lot of shows, but also I remember you were on another native director, she's from Farmington, New Mexico, and
Gallup, Sydney.
Sydney. Freeland.
Drunktown.
Freeland.
Yeah.
Drunktown's finest.
Yep. Yeah.
And it was cool seeing you in that because it's like, so there's Jeremiah, this big old like AMC actor known worldwide, and then he comes back home to the roots and helps be a part of independent films like Drunktown's finest. It got a lot of awards, I think, with like Sundance because they came out of the Sundance Native
Sundance Lab.
Native Sundance Lab and all that.
Yeah, and it became, I think it was Next. That was a new program through Sundance. So yeah, we premiered 2014 at Sundance, and great film. Same, like very, a lot of those traumas, the stories that we know from back home. You know, young guys who have a lot of trauma, that have a lot of pent up anger and not really so much guidance or direction. And so that's what Sick Boy was about. And you know, and so it was cool. It was awesome to lead that. It was an experience to, you know, I had the benefit of working with, I guess directly and indirectly with Robert Redford through that project. The day he was trying to make it to our set, we were on our last shoot day, and then I met him that same weekend. We were giving an award through AFME here downtown to Giancarlo Esposito, and Bob and I were both there. It was just like a weird, one of those things that happen where it's like it's this intersection of life, you know?
Yep.
But that project still holds a lot of value for me personally because small film, but there's times we were just running and gunning.
Yep.
We'd do 2 or 3 takes, you know how it is?
Yeah.
And it'd be like, okay, we got it. It'd be like, what? Like, no, we got it. I'm like, was it?
Yeah, all right,
are you sure? Are you serious? Like, okay, all right.
All right, now, next setup.
Next setup, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I love independent film, and to work with Sydney was an amazing experience.
The other part was you work with Taylor Sheridan, which is one of my favorite directors, who's done Hell or High Water, Yellowstone, Sicario.
Yep.
What was the other one? There's another big one.
Well, that it's funny you mentioned. Yeah, Hell and High Water was one that really, that one stood out to me, and
Wind River.
Wind River was one that was like. That was so well timed. We get a lot of flack in the community just based on, well, these should be our people telling these stories. These should be, shouldn't be done that way. It needs to be told this way. It's like, there's documentary and then there's fiction. And there's more headway that has been made in the last 10 years than I've seen in my whole career, 25 years being in film actively. So yeah, Taylor, he's no one. We're human, no one's ever gonna deliver a perfect picture for everybody, But his method and style of filmmaking is definitely amazing, And so it was crazy cool to be on the first pilot, and it was an experience.
Yeah, no, that I love his directing style because, like you said, Native should be representing us, but at the same time, I really feel like he has a good finger on the pulse of the Native community. Mm-hmm. He does a very good job of writing the jokes.
Yep.
He does a very good job of writing the dark humor.
Yep.
He does a very good job of showing the conditions we live in, but we still make the most of it.
Yeah.
And then he does it seems like he was raised with like a trading post family.
Yeah.
That's who he reminds me. He reminds me of a kid who was hanging out with his parents behind a cash register, working and trading with natives at the trading post on the border of town. And that's who he reminds me of, especially his style and writing. But his films are very raw, that it's a gut punch, not just to natives, but to anybody who watches it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good way to say it. And I think, for me personally, like I grinded my teeth on doing projects that were non-ethnic specific, and that was, just because I really didn't have a choice as being marginalized, and it was very rare. Project like 1,000 Roads would come about, or Sidney Freeland's Drunktown, or anything at the time, and now it's amazing. There's a lot more content, But yeah, it's that, I don't know. I'm very careful. I try to be careful, at least what I put out there, you know, because I want to play the character as a human ultimately.
Yeah.
People sometimes say, "Oh man, what's it like to be a Native actor?" And it's like, well, I'm Native, and then I also act, you know. So it's like, you know, so it's like you're representing the experience and whatever character you're playing, and you're not playing your culture necessarily. You're bringing the perspective, and I think it was I want to say not John Singleton, it was Denzel Washington, and Denzel said, you know, just to kind of quote him, you can watch the video. He said, could Steven Spielberg direct Goodfellas? And he says, yeah, I'm sure he could. He'd probably do a good job. But it's a culture thing. Like, you know, you have Martin Scorsese, and he knows the culture, you know. And similar to us, like we know the smell of fry bread. We know, you know, the smell of a breakfast spam burrito. You know, those are things that we know. We know what sheep camp's like. We know what it's like to spend time on sheep camp. Those are things those are cultural experiences. Mm-hmm. You may not show them in a film, but they're embedded in, and you can represent that. So I mean, I think, just like anything with the characters that we play, the true testament to it has to be for the character as a person, you know, as a well-rounded person, not just someone that's this one-dimensional character. What we're represented as a lot of times. You know? Yeah. No, that's a really good way of saying it, and that's true because of when a director's engulfed in the culture and understands the history of it, just like you said, smell of fry bread and sheep camp. Yeah, I mean, there's your character development. Yep. That's before. So character development is when you have a character written on a script, but there's a backstory to that character, so that drives the actor about what's their motive. Mm-hmm. When they walk down the hall, they know the character like the back of their hand, so you know the character may probably scratch your ear before turning to the left. Yep. So you're going to do that. So Martin Scorsese understands stuff like that compared to a mafia film with Steven Spielberg. But Steven Spielberg with World War II, hand in hand. Because he made World War II films when he was like 11 or 12 years old. So same thing. The recent film that he came up with, you know, based on his upbringing, you know. Oh, yeah. I just watched it a few weeks ago, but a really good film as well. Now we're diving over from acting and cinema to GC and Bitco. Yeah. Tell us about Bitco, the history of it. So my father and I started in 2008. My father had a company in California, and he'd worked his whole life, you know, at that time as a civil contractor, and through a rough set of events, like, you know, you got to watch who you work with. He had a bad CFO, put him in a really precarious situation. He had to work his way out of a hole, and he was having a hard time after that, and went around to, I won't say what contractors around town or what firms, but, you know, went around, and nobody wanted to hire somebody in their 50s, you know, to the twilight of their career. Everyone wanted young guys, and so I just said, hey, let's start a company. You know, there's a lot of needs back home, and so we created Bitco, and the idea is we'd try to focus or refocus technology, innovative technology, and how it could be utilized within community. You know, so what that means is, as you know, on the construction side, you're estimating or you are trying to plan. If you miss on your lumber run and you're 200 miles out round trip, it's a different impact than if you're delivering more of a fully developed building, you know, where maybe just finishing's done or where the whole building is arriving. So we do a lot of modular, we do a lot of pre-engineered structures, and then on the other side, we have some really interesting technology that we have access to in relation to uranium cleanup, road stabilization. So the test is, can this be something that could work back home or with our people? can benefit our people. So it's nice to be able to provide solutions everywhere, but the true testament is it something that could work rural and back home? So been in business now 25 years, actively on that. Started my first business when I was 19, so I was thinking the other day, I was like, geez, I've been, it seems crazy, but like 20, basically, what is that, 25 years as an entrepreneur and 15 years with Bitco. So to correct the numbers a little bit.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
No, that's really good, because I mean that's something that's always preached to natives about getting education, get that piece of paper, and get out there and get a good job or get a good career. Instead, you and your dad created your own career. You created your own career since you're 19.
Yeah.
So what was the motivation for you to just be an entrepreneur since the very beginning? And then I'll dive back into Bitcoin.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't have good grades. I had kind of some rough years in high school, and so I was trying to make up for that misguided time.
Were you a troublemaker?
I got in some trouble. Fell into the some of the stuff here in the city, and you know, the 90s in Albuquerque was a tough place. And basically I realized, like, I need to do something or this is going to be bad. I had friends killed. I had a lot of friends that had passed growing up, and then also here. So growing up on the res and then raised here. And I just realized I need to do something about it, you know. I need to change. So I did, and I changed my grades. I tried to focus more on school my senior year, and I got out, and I still was at par. I wasn't really, no big college was going to accept me. Yeah. So I wanted to move to LA, and only jobs that I had, I was a dishwasher at Sweet Tomatoes and server, and I had worked at MCI. And my mom took an entrepreneurial leave and was doing development and training for professionals. So I just basically adapted that material because she went back to her job, and I took her workbook and I said, "Do you mind if I use this?" Sure. And she had a computer there at the house. I was still living with him at the time, and I said, "Hey, do you mind if I use your computer? You can use all this, you know." So I used her little workstation, repurposed her material, and basically created a soft skill training program for youth. And we were national, operational for 6 years. And that's what took me to LA, and got a good sense and network of nations throughout the U.S. Yeah. And it was an eye-opening experience, and it was great. It was a great groundbreaking into being an entrepreneur. That's
pretty amazing. So I'll say this on camera. I only called out him if he got into trouble when you were young, because it's good, because that everybody who watches this won't think, oh, of course he made it this far and he's successful because he's an angel. He's you know, there's no marks on his naughty board. You know?
No, you know.
So it's good that someone. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was going to cut you off, and I apologize, but basically, yeah, you're right. It's there's some of the best entrepreneurs and people that I know, you know, had, I guess, skirted the opposite side of the law, or you know, maybe lived a little bit of a different past. Yeah. They corrected that and realized, you know, why they need to be on a different trajectory.
Yep, like Johnny Cash.
There you go.
Merle Haggard.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, so
you're right about that.
And then with Bitco, you said you've been on the 15 years, but the company's been going on for 25 years?
No, that's where I made a mistake. So I have been an entrepreneur since the age of 19, so 24 years as an entrepreneur. Bitco's been operational for 15 years, 2008.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, I got you. Oh, yeah, that's
so I got a little...
No, actually, I think I did my math wrong.
Yeah, I did it. I messed you up.
Yeah, no worries. So, all right, then with Bitco, I remember you were telling me some interesting stuff you guys did during the pandemic.
Yeah, incident command centers. So the focus was so incident command centers, basically the thought is, if you had, and this is the way I pitched it, was if, God forbid, the world was going crazy and you needed somewhere to operate out of, we create the space, in particular, maybe one built around a well, be able to operate buildings offline, so generators, areas for storage, dry food, laundry facilities, commercial kitchen, shelter-in-place housing for essential workers, and then work offices. So yeah, we did that. We did drive-through testing, vaccination facilities with IHS, and then some positive pressurized ancillary space for their overflow for patients that needed care and that were unfortunately on their way either onto the helicopter, so it was situated outside, let's say situated outside of the main hospital unit, the ER, in their parking lot close to the helipad. Okay. Those are a few things that we did, and it was an amazing experience to be able to have that, and just really kind of reshaped the thinking around what's essential. And of course we learned so much through the pandemic, and realized that there's a lot of gaps all in all. Federal government, cities, everyone has these gaps, and that's kind of where we've been looking or focusing on a little more. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Well, that's way more than I thought you guys were doing. Because you like your father, you talk very humbly about, oh yeah, we're doing this during the pandemic. It's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But now you go more in depth on it, like, that's really cool.
Yeah. Primarily commercial space. That's the nuts and bolts of it. But we've built a detention facility. We've built a casino and a jewelry manufacturing facility on Navajo for the arts and crafts. So we've kind of, covered a wide array.
And so, uranium. So how's that uranium cleanup?
So the cleanup on the nation, it's an unfortunate thing for those that don't know. We've had sites throughout the Navajo Nation, which are what you call AUMs, abandoned uranium mines. Mm-hmm. Some of those areas are some of those mines were able to be traced back to companies, and those companies were able to provide reparations. Other ones were not, and the government provided it. Still, there's not enough money to clean all the sites currently. So we're trying to figure creative ways to bring solutions to the work sites. So not as much material has to be hauled, and hopefully having an ability to separate material as best as we can, so that the contaminated material can leave, and soil that is reintroduced or able to be reintroduced can stay there in the community. But to bring it back to a human level, it's really sad because there's a lot of places that are hot areas that you'd never suspect, and you have grandmas and kids playing in literally tailings right there, less than a couple hundred yards or feet in some cases.
So that stuff always makes my blood boil.
Yeah.
So how do community members identify uranium? That sounds like a very broad question.
It's tough. I mean, on Navajo, there's areas where people now historically know, hey, don't go over there. Yeah. Some areas have been actually just fenced off. Yeah. But, my grandma died of, on my mom's side, my maternal grandma, Manali and Naden, she passed from downwind, which was really, really sad. And you have a lot of that back home. Folks that have passed and have come into contact. But we're hoping to make an impact. Hopefully, there's a lot we can do there to help. Well, first, thank you, Nick. Thank you for having me, and any ability I have to encourage, thank you for having this platform. And I just have to say, education is as useful as your vision that you attach to it. So you really have to believe in your vision, you know, and whether you think, just like I did, you know, living in a trailer in Chinle, I just had a strong vision that I wanted and I could do something in film, and it started with that. And then just the same vision I had when I was 18, hey, I can live through all this and I can make it and I can go to school. And there was a value for education at that point because I had a vision, the passion. Inspiration, I think, is cheap. I'd say focus on your focus. You know, if you're young, you know, sit there and try to draw, depending on how old you are. Give it 15 minutes, but take away every other distraction. Get rid of this and just focus. As a writer, you know, I know professional writers focus 1 hour a day, write great scripts, but no distractions, you know. And so I think the more you can hone on that, the more you can hone on focus. Those are big things.
Cool. All right. Well, how can people find you or follow you on social media?
I am on Instagram at jeremiahbitsui.com. And then, yeah, that's the big one. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, brother.
Awesome. All right, there you go. And we have more coming.
Nice, man.
Easy peasy.